Dawgs, welcome in. That's my theme music. Let's go, King James Ben Real Cortez, starting us up here on a July 3rd edition of Before the Hedges, brought to you by Kroger. And folks, it has been a brisk, busy summer so far for Georgia football recruiting. Let's wind the clock back. Last month, Georgia entered June 2024. They had 9 commitments. They're about number 14 nationally behind programs like Wake Forest, Syracuse, Auburn. But then all of a sudden, them dogs got hot. 8 commitments in the month of June, including 4 in the last week of June. You had a 5-star to begin the month. You had a 5-star to end the month. So we're talking about July right now on the 3rd day of July. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for jumping in here on Before the Hedges. Brought to you by Kroger. Kind of like it's your favorite beach spot, kind of like it's your favorite pool. We're going to jump right into all things Georgia football recruiting. And we're going to start, I guess, busy show today. We've got an interview with 5-star edge Isaiah Gibson. We're going to hear from 5-star quarterback commitment Jared Curits. What exactly does that USC offer actually mean here? You want to hear from the dog target that is next up to make his decision. That would be on a scheduled decision front. That would be Murfreesboro Rockvale High School safety Jaylan Morgan. Really impressive story there. Really important why there with Mr. Morgan as the Dogs are in his Final Four. We're going to briskly take a look at what happened at the Future 50 with all that intel pouring out from the 2026 class. And also, we're going to just reset the month. In the words of Marvin Gaye, what's going on with Georgia football recruiting? Well, what's going on is another busy month, several commitments scheduled, a couple of targets with unscheduled commitment dates, but actually time frames for the month of July. So we'll be checking on that. You guys remember how busy last July was when Georgia stacked up, I believe, commitments on July 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th. Something wild, something crazy like that. Well, there's more in store for the month of July, but as we stated, as the headline of our show states, we're going to learn about Isaiah Gibson right out of the gate. Folks, let me tell you, very impressive. Gibson is rated as a 5-star by On3 Recruits. He's a 4-star and number 39 overall for the 24/7 Sports Composite. That will certainly change. Isaiah Gibson, guys, is about 6'4" and a half. First thing that stands out about Isaiah here, most recruits, some recruits, they kind of goose the height and weight a little bit. For Isaiah, he's actually underserving himself. He's kind of lowballing it. He's actually at least a 6'4" plus, maybe scratching, getting close to the 6'5" mark. Every bit of 265, 270 pounds. And all I can tell you, folks, is what I see. I've seen Jermaine Johnson come to Georgia. I've seen Azeez Ojulari come to Georgia. Nolan Smith, Adam Anderson. The list goes on and on. Damon Wilson, Samuel Mpemba, guys like that. Very rarely have I seen a guy like this. Isaiah Gibson, the wingspan stretches Shaquille O'Neal territory. We were down in Warner Robins. We actually went to Montezuma, the home of the great Roquan Smith, to watch an OTA. Warner Robins was performing, was part of the OTA. And let me tell you, folks, you're going to see in this video here, not much was getting done offensively when Isaiah Gibson was on the other side of the ball. You want to see a 5-star interview tonight on Before the Hedges, right before the birthday of our great nation? Of course you do. Let's check it out right now, right here on Before the Hedges. You're not only the guy on the field, you're the guy, hype man on the sideline.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And so I did some reporting, and they told me, man, he's always been like that. 9 years old, North Side Bandits, coming out of the tunnel. He stuck somebody, and he jumped up and down. This is just you, right?
Yeah, that's just me. I love the game of football, you know what I'm saying? Football is my life. You know what I'm saying? I play with all my effort, all my energy, so I put all my stuff, I put my all in everything in football.
practice field too, right?
Yes, sir. Got to.
You're a little chippy, a little aggressive, but that's the right kind of play. That's a player you find like you get more. You summon up your best football when you play on the edge like that.
Yeah, I feel like the more aggressive I am, the more better I play. That's how I feel. I feel like you should always play football with aggression. I will always play with aggression. You know what I'm saying? I will always, me personally, I feel like just me talking. I talk a lot. Like I don't really talk outside of football, but when it's football, I talk. You won't stop hearing me. You'll hear me the whole time.
Got a few stories I want to ask you about. Number one. Now listen, I'm just in the moment here. I'm watching you, and I've seen Aziz Ojolari, I've seen Adam Anderson, I've seen Michael, I've seen a lot of guys that are on their way to Georgia.
Yeah.
I simply can't imagine if you get on the same defensive line with Elijah and Justin. Ooh. How in the world would people block you guys, man?
I don't know.
Have you thought about that, the potential there?
Hey, anything can happen. That's all I can say.
Yeah, I'm not trying to get any I'm just thinking about the possibility. Who do you double? You can't double anybody.
Can't double nobody.
What's the story? I know you've had a lot of time to think about it. I had a lot of people in Warner Robins telling me after your commitment, even before your commitment, watch Georgia. Then after your commitment, watch Georgia. The guy wears Georgia stuff all the time. Like, what's the story of your road away from Warner Robins to LA and then back to Athens? How would you describe it?
I'm be honest. Everything in LA was in the moment. I'm being straight honest. I've always been honest. It was in the moment. At the moment, I loved LA, you know what I'm saying? But over time, you start to realize, you know what I'm saying? I got all my family's on the East Coast. I have no family on the West Coast, you know what I'm saying? So being just away that far from my family, it just didn't fit right with me, you know what I'm saying? So I just chose to stay home. Especially my grandma's in Warner Robins still. I want to be close to my grandma, so yeah.
What's your grandma's name?
Isaiah Gibson.
How much she mean to you?
A lot. Grandma's on the world. She raised me. My grandma and my granddad raised me, so.
Isaiah, what point after the commitment did you start thinking, whoa? Like second thoughts or start wondering? Did Georgia just jump on you and make you realize that they still wanted you no matter what? Or how did that happen?
The first 30 seconds after I committed, Coach Smart texted me and said, who will be here to the end. The whole coach, I heard from the entire coaching staff that day. So I already knew what it was.
And what was that? You went viral with it where you were trying to call somebody famous in your phone and you called Kirby. When was that? Tell me a story about that.
That was actually in the On 3 Elite event in Nashville.
Yeah.
And then they just came up to me. I was just having a conversation. And then, Coach Smart answered, came through.
And he said, don't call me unless you're going to commit?
Yeah, he called me and said that. Yeah.
Why Georgia? Why is it?
Me personally, I just feel like Georgia is where it fits me most. You know what I'm saying? I like to work. I don't want anything given to me. That's really what it is. Like every other school, they'll throw you the world. I don't want everything thrown at me. I really just want to work for what I have because I always work for what I have now. So I just want to continue to do that. And I feel like Georgia's the best place for me.
For you, like when did you know you had to make the decision? Like I know maybe the commitment came after you knew you had to be a Dawg again, right?
I'm gonna be honest. I knew I was going to Georgia like
after you OB to Georgia?
Yeah, I already know.
Why? Just what it felt like?
Yeah, it feels home. That's why. Like I feel comfortable around everybody. Like every place you go to, you don't feel comfortable. Like I'm a very good observer. I observe everything, but just that vibe from Georgia was amazing.
And are you done? Are you going to visit other schools as your recruitment?
More than likely not. Just a minute. More than likely not.
You have a message for all the fans that have been rooting and like flipping up and down when you made your flip, or what's your message to DawgNation?
All I gotta say is go Dawgs. That's all I gotta say. Go Dawgs.
Thanks, Isaiah. Appreciate it. There you have it, guys. Now, lean in a little close here because this is what we're going to talk about with Isaiah. First of all, story time here on Before the Hedges. No joke. This is what happened. There was this sequence in some of the OTAs. You see, they were in the shells. They weren't in full pads, but there was this sequence where Warner Robins guys and Isaiah was just shredding the other side. And like he had 4 plays, and then his head coach at Warner Robins said, all right, let's get the twos in here. No joke. The other coaches on the other team said, Coach, that's a great idea. Coach, that's a great idea. And really it was true because there was really nothing the other side could do. They used the term animal to describe him. And you watch him, guys, he is the 5-star on the field, but he's also like the 5-star hype man. You see him on the field, you see him on the grass. He's going to play a little chippy. But he said, you saw in that interview, that's where he finds his best football because he's always talking. He's always talking to the other side. That's part of his game. And guys, I heard so many stories. You'll see the full brunt of it on DawgNation.com in a future story. But he had 19 sacks last year, 50-something quarterback pressures. They caught him on the GPS for one specific game last year at 21 miles an hour. You see that length, folks, that is unreal. And I shared this. If I can tell you one thing right now about Georgia football recruiting, we kind of just kicked around the can there with Isaiah a little bit. And I said, have you pondered the fact what happens if you wind up on the same defensive line at Georgia? And let's be clear here, uncommitted Justice Terry, uncommitted Elijah Griffin. Those are two major targets left for Georgia's class. And he just said, nobody can block us. You can't block anybody. I'm going to take that a little bit further, guys. We spend a lot of time and resources on this show, pointing, looking, profiling, chronicling. If Georgia winds up with those three defensive linemen on the same front, and then you add in guys like Nasir Johnson, Jordan Thomas, Joseph Jonah Janye, Nnamdi Ogboko, Jordan Big Baby Hall, that's going to be part of Georgia's future defensive line rotation. Nothing much is going to really matter after that. I'm not supposed to tell you that because we want you to pay attention to everything. Nobody's going to block that front line. Combine that with the back end with K.J. Bolden and DeMello Jones and Ellis Robinson IV, and you keep going on and on with Andre Evans. It's just going to be a aggregation of incredible havoc resources, starting right there with Isaiah Gibson, guys. 6'5", 270, 21 miles on the GPS, 55 quarterback pressures when everybody had to stop him. An absolute animal. Isaiah Gibson is everything he's advertised to be and a little bit more. So that right there, we start out with the Big Five, and we started out with our Big Five-star right here on Before the Hedges, brought to you by Kroger. That's number one. Number two, we're going to talk about kind of jumping into where I spent most of the weekend. First of all, I spent most of the weekend down at IMG Academy. That's Bradenton. That's Sarasota. First of all, beautiful area. If you guys are part of DawgNation and you live anywhere near Lido Beach or Siesta Key, Anna Maria Island, you guys are living right. But 2026, this was different, Future 50. First of all, it was really more like a scouting event for USA flag football. Flag football, if you guys don't know, will be a part of the 2028 Olympics out in Los Angeles. And they're just kind of trying to seed up the program. So they had girls flag football players, and they had the best football prospects in the country playing flag football as well. So that meant no big boys, no big uglies. They had some tight ends, but it was mostly quarterbacks, receivers, running backs, safeties, corners, that sort of thing. And the other thing about this was the flag football field, guys, it was a little weird to watch. It was 45 yards long, and it was 25 yards wide. So like a five-star receiver, five-star safety, a five-star corner could really cover two guys on a ball down the field because those guys can cover 20 yards very easy, 10 yards very easy while the ball's in the air. So that was interesting, but there were still skill guys to talk to. There was still some intel to be gathered for the 2026 class. And, first of all, kind of jumping in, the thing that struck me the most was Jared Curits. That's the Georgia quarterback commitment. We'll have a feature on him later in the Big Five, but he couldn't work out. He had broken his middle finger on the water. Kind of reminded me a little bit of that story, Jake Fromm, that happened several July 4ths ago when something happened on the water. Jake was still ready to play in that first game of the season. I believe that was the 2019 season. And that's what it sort of felt like with Jared Curits. But we got lots of video, we got lots of images. A couple of things to talk about right here on the 2026 front is you've got there's two five-stars in the class. Five-star tight end Kendry Harrison, five-star defensive lineman Jakeem Stewart, rated number one in the country at their positions. They both told me, matter-of-factly, they're not being recruited hard by Georgia anymore. So that was very interesting. With Stewart, he is a tenacious defensive lineman. He bills himself as Thanos because he is inevitable. He is an impressive prospect. I remember when he was already bigger than Trayvon Walker when he was an eighth grader when Georgia had its G-Day in 2022. He's just not hearing from Trey Scott. He got an edit, I believe, on June 15th, but that's about it. Other schools are big in on Jakeem, like Ohio State, LSU, several others. But really, there's a casualty there where Jakeem wants to potentially, he's pondering whether he reclassifies to the 2025 class. And with Georgia, that makes a lot of sense to draw from that inference because Georgia's quite busy chasing 2025 DLs, namely Justice Terry, namely Elijah Griffin in that class. So interesting there. I think the news on Kendra Harrison, who's also a top 35 overall basketball prospect out of North Carolina in the 2026 class. Not hearing from Georgia, but Georgia, this is a trust Todd Hartley moment, guys, as I wrote about on DawgNation.com. Georgia is in it pretty tight with the number 2, the number 3, the number 4, and the number 7 tight ends in the country for 2026. 3 of those are in-state guys. The other one, Brock Harris, is out of Utah. So that's a moment where Georgia's not in on Kendra Harrison anymore, but they're certainly very, very animated and very aggressive on the front for their major 2026 targets. I got to talk to Derek Cooper. That's the guy that committed to Georgia and then walked that thing back within hours, I would say. Probably one of the shortest commitments in Georgia football recruiting history, to say the least. Got to meet up with Savion Hyder. He is the number 2 running back for some, the number 1 running back for others. Mr. Hyder, very electric, jumping up and down all over the place, doing backflips. Caden Hall was a name out of Milton High School in Florida. He's 6'3", he's about 195 pounds, made a lot of plays down there at IMG Academy. And for him, very intriguing story. He told me, well, first of all, I noticed that he has a pinned tweet back from May the 20th, I believe. And that was the day he got his Georgia offer. You see Caden Hall right there. Caden has kept that tweet and as his pinned tweet on his X account. And I asked him, I said, hey, man, Caden, why? And he said, man, because that offer really means something. When you get an offer from Georgia, that's one that doesn't come by easy. It shows something that you hold that offer. And he said that offer was very special to him. Other guys that stood out, Jordan Gidron. He's a receiver out of South Carolina. Coley was recruiting him when he was at South Carolina for a short time. He's really been recruiting him now. He's got a backstory with Georgia where he was at Kirby Smart's camp when he was in elementary school. And then, as the plot thickens, his brother, his younger brother, he was basically working out, going to that middle school camp, that Kirby Smart youth camp, with Channing Tindall's younger brother. Everybody remembers Channing Tindall, had some great time there in Athens, came into Georgia as part of that big class in 2018, won a national title, drafted by the Dolphins. But he was kind of a legend in South Carolina high school football. I believe he was Mr. Football his senior year in South Carolina. But those two things, the visit to the Kirby camp, he took a picture with Kirby Smart, and then also the connection there to Channing Tindall, really made a strong impression on Jordan, and that's why he follows Georgia now. He's very interested in Georgia. He's the number 6 wide receiver for On3. He's the number 7, I believe, for 24/7 Sports, and that's an elite top 55, top 60 overall prospect at receiver that really Georgia's already got a really good foothold there with that recruitment. So lots of things to get to there. Perhaps maybe the most impressive one for me was getting the chance to talk to Jordan Thomas and his family. Now, first of all, guys, Jordan Thomas is, yes, there's a Jordan Thomas that signed with Georgia in the 2024 class. Let me tell you this, you guys will not mind the confusion one bit if Jordan Thomas signs with the Dawgs. He's only rated as like the number 28 corner, maybe number 190, 200 overall. Much, much better than that. He was probably the one DB I was the most impressed with. Ohio State, Georgia, Alabama are already really in on Jordan Thomas. Now, here's a couple chances for Georgia. Number 1 is he's been to Georgia. He got to visit Georgia. Number 2, his high school teammate, Nair Daniels at Bergen Catholic in Jersey. Again, these Garden State Dogs are popping up everywhere, each and every recruiting cycle. But Jordan's high school teammate, Nair Daniels, remember, he got to the All-American Bowl, was probably weighing like 385, 390. He was already really totally reshaped his body by the time Jordan Thomas saw him this spring. I think Nair, somewhere around 335, 345 right now. An incredible weight loss success story there for a young man that's every bit of 6 feet 8 inches as well. But he already knows all about Georgia through that connection there to Nair Daniels. So there were several storylines on the 2026 class to track. Those are some of the biggest there. The 5 stars that are no longer being recruited by Georgia, 2 really good running backs in Savion Hyder, Derek Cooper. You saw the Jordan Gidron, the receiver, Caden Hall, Jordan Thomas. There was also a young man named Vance Spafford who won the fastest man. He's out in California at Mission Viejo. He had 83 catches for 1,600 yards, just about it last year, and 22 touchdowns. And the guy's 5'11", 5'10", 175 pounds. He won the fastest man at the Under Armour Future 50 when he clocked a laser 4.35. And word on the street, Mission Viejo had a 5-star corner in this class, Dijon Lee. He just chose Alabama last week, and Dijon can't even stick with him. Nobody can stick with Vance Spafford. He was definitely a fan favorite, very entertaining to watch. Vance told me that most of those yards, guys, 83 catches as a sophomore in high school, 1,500-plus yards, 22 touchdowns. Most of that work came on fade balls and posts. So that is a name to know in the class of 2026. Spafford's kind of like the number 20 receiver in the country, a top 200 overall prospect. But that's a guy that everybody needs to be recruiting in the 2026 cycle. Now, that's your Future 50 update. Let's jump right now in our Big 5 to number 3, and we're going to talk about what's going on right now with Georgia football recruiting. You remember how we talked about earlier, like which decisions are coming down the track, how busy June was, how busy will July look like? Well, we put together a graphic. Obviously, the production team on Before the Hedges is unparalleled. Let's take a look right now and see what the commitment front looks like for the month of July. And I always start out with is currently Shamari Earls. And the word here is soon, like this week soon, maybe end of the week soon, maybe even earlier by the time that, as we're recording this program right now. Shamari Earls is committed to South Carolina, but for all intents and purposes, what I believe will happen here is he will choose Georgia or Michigan. Now, he's rated as a top 80 overall prospect purely for 24/7 Sports, but I think he's number 102, number 5 in the country, 105 in the country for the 24/7 Sports composite. That is a cornerback. Georgia currently has 0 corners committed in the 2025 class after absolutely loading up in 2024. The next name here is a 2024. That's the guy that Jazari Jackson. Everybody calls him Ja. Folks, for a second here, I'm going to tell you something. I can't believe how famous this guy is. I've talked to maybe 6 athletes in the last 2 weeks. Somehow Ja's name comes up. That's because of his AAU background. That's because he's 6 feet 10 inches. That's because he played with Bronny James on the AAU circuit. He's transitioning now to play football. Georgia got the final official visit. Ja is going to make his decision now on July the 8th. It was July the 6th. Florida State, Mississippi State, Florida, and Georgia, those feel like the contenders there for somebody. Should he choose the Dogs, guys? That's going to be a fascinating story to track. How many years will he need to be in Athens? How quickly could a 6'10", 335-pound project, so to speak? We can call him project, but he actually played a little bit of football coming up before he transitioned to basketball. Very intriguing story. Very intriguing to see what Stacey Searles could do there. If, and that's a big if for a 6'10" prospect, if Ja Jackson chooses the Dogs. The next one on the docket is Jaylan Morgan. Now, we're teasing this right now. We've got a great Dog Nation conversation with Jaylan Morgan coming up in our next segment. He's making his decision on July the 8th. It was going to be July the 1st, but he was in a dead period in Tennessee. And this is a weird rule, guys, but because of the dead period in Tennessee, players cannot see coaches, coaches cannot see players. So Jaylan, who wants to thank the coaches at Rockville High School in Murfreesboro who poured into him, he's not allowed to see him during the dead period. So that's why they had to push it to July the 8th. Rules, guys. Sometimes rules are sometimes upside down in this world. Florida, Georgia, Ole Miss, or Mississippi State there. Like I said, you'll hear a little bit more from Jaylan in our next segment. Travis Smith Jr., Alabama, Auburn, Georgia, or Tennessee. He's slated to come off the board. Westlake High star Travis Smith on July the 13th. And again, Travis, we must reiterate, one of the finest receivers to come out of the state of Georgia in the last several years. Next up on our board, we've got a couple more things to track, a couple more guys to track. July 14th, Rashad Tom Johnson. Look at the leaders there. Look at the options there. Then you've got Bryce Davis, Clemson, Duke, Georgia, and South Carolina going to come off the board for someone on July the 20th. The same thing there for Cortez Smith. Georgia, Georgia Tech, Miami, and South Carolina. Cortez is, but we'll actually credit to both Cortez and Bryce. They've had those decisions, those decision dates and commitment ceremonies staked away for several months, and they've held fast to those. And lastly, you got four-star linebacker Christian Gass, Georgia, Tennessee, and USC. Christian is out of Eastside High in Covington. To be determined for the four-star linebacker, really athletic guy out of Eastside, home of Eric Stokes. He's to be determined for July as well. All right, guys, that's a good look. That's a good look at what's going on, what's setting that. We're kind of frame up and set what's going on for the month of July, who's scheduled to make decisions, which decisions will we be tracking on Before the Hedges and DawgNation.com. And now, number 4 in our Big Five. We teased it up. You want to learn a lot about Jaylan Morgan out of Murfreesboro, Tennessee. Really strong why for this young man. Georgia is in his Final Four. Let's learn about Jaylan Morgan right now on Before the Hedges.
Their message to me was I can play the strong safety, the free safety, and the nickel spot, or in their case, star, because of my versatility.
How does that feel when two guys at that school tell you that?
It makes me feel like a little bit more secure, knowing that it's coming from different eyes and different point of views, and they all agree on that. Even Coach Smart agreed on that, and that means a lot to me.
You kind of knew the Georgia offer was coming because of previous offers and previous relationships. Is that what you felt there?
Yes, sir.
Why do you do it? Everybody's got their own story about what's your why. When football gets rough and, coaches get to the line and every player puts their hands on their hips or they roll their head or they look up at the sky and they're like, why do I do this? For me, why do you play this great game?
I would say my why, at first, like when I was younger, I didn't really like football. I didn't know if I was going to play football. But my dad, he really got me into it and made me develop the strong love that I have for it now. And, with him coaching me and giving me the confidence and building me up, and him showing me the potential I could be at, and which I haven't got to my ceiling yet. But it made me fall in love with it a little bit more, which I'm full force with it now, and I love it now. I wouldn't trade it for the world. And I kind of do it for him a little bit because he ended up passing away like 4 years ago. That's how I remember him a little bit. So when I'm on the field, like it just reminds me of them times. Like this is where it started, and this is what I love to do. This is what I enjoy to do.
Oh. Jaylan, what was your father's name?
My father's name was Andre Morgan.
Did he play college football at any level?
Yes, sir. He played for Troy.
Oh, wow. And his name is spelled Andre?
Yes, sir.
Do you do anything to honor him before games, like write his name on cleats or spat or wristbands or anything like that?
He wore number 2 and number 7, so I ain't really like 7, so I chose 2. That's my reason behind that number. Because before I was I was 1 and 11, but when he passed away, I changed it to 2. Because that was one of his favorite numbers. And then I have LL Dre on my football towel. That's really all I do to, honor him.
Your football towel?
Yes, sir.
What were your impressions of Kirby Smart?
Okay, so going going into the office when I talked to him, I was a little nervous. I was thinking like, dang, like he gonna be super serious. Yeah, but just like how I'm talking to you right now, he was talking to me the same way. He was giving me the rundown on his family and stuff, and the reason why they were recruiting me, and he was just making jokes along the way.
Why did he say it was the reason why Georgia's recruiting you?
Because of my versatility and that I have the grades and I fit the mold, not only physically but mentally. Because everybody can find somebody that can run, jump, do all the athletic stuff, but somebody that understands the game mentally, that is hard to find, and he feels like he can find that in me.
That's a great answer.
I think Georgia is an amazing program. They have great people standing behind them. Starting off with from the head to the toe with Coach Smart at the top. He's a great dude. Like just from the little activities he was doing, just from me visiting up there, seeing how he interacts with his players, interacts with all the people he's recruiting, and to see him like really do that at practice and do all those things, that sticks out to me because like he's not. I can tell he's not just putting on the front. He's very genuine in the way he acts. He'll get on your butt if you need to, but he's also somebody I feel like that you can, come to whenever you need something or whatever it is that it may be. T-Rob, I've been having a good relationship with him since Alabama. He's a real good dude, same way with Coach Smart. Like, he'll get on your butt if you need to. You can tell he cares about his players. Coach Williams, Coach Schumann, everybody in the Georgia staff, they're good people. And the school is amazing. The students was real welcoming. Players, when I went on my OV, I just felt comfortable with them. And I was with Andre Evans. I was friends with him previously, but he brought me around the other kids, and like I got along with them and I was comfortable with them, and we could it just seems like friends that I would have in Murfreesboro, like that I talk to every day. It wasn't no awkwardness. Like they was telling me how it is, and from what I see and from what the players, coaches, and everybody at Georgia is preaching to me, I can see that, and it all like mashes up together well, and I can see their vision is the same, and it's a strong vision, and I can tell where they want to be at.
All right, guys, got a few things to unpack here. Is it just me, or you guys get some Javon Bullard vibes off this young man? First of all, hashtag LL Dre. Impressive, very impressive. Why? Second of all, did you hear that answer where he said he was talking to Kirby Smart, and he said, a lot of people can run, a lot of people can jump, a lot of people can tackle and play football. But the next step is being able to understand the mental side of the game, to process it really well. And that's something that Georgia has identified in Jaylan Morgan. Man, when I heard that answer, and he told me this, that's actually an interview with Jaylan with some recent stuff and some older stuff with Jaylan. I think he told me this back in May, and I heard that, and I was like, man, very impressive answer. Sounds like those Javon Bullard types of the past, and he's got a Final Four. Mississippi State guys, very big in this thing. Ole Miss, Florida, has great relationships at Florida. He tells me great relationships at Mississippi State. Ole Miss as well. He sees Ole Miss as a summoning giant, as an emerging giant in the SEC, but lots to like there about Jaylan Morgan. His decision will be on July the 8th. And guys, I'm gonna tell you, that's one of those interviews that really stand out for a guy like me that I talk to, 15 recruits each and every week. More than that when I'm in an event like the Future 50. One of those you file a young man like that away because it sticks out amongst the background and all the chatter and everything you get while trying to cover Georgia football recruiting day in and day out. So right there. Very cool stuff there with Jaylan Morgan. And you know what else you can get some really cool stuff? Let's talk about your local neighborhood Kroger. Kroger has you covered for all your fun in the sun with all your fresh summer faves. Find all your favorites available for convenient pickup or delivery so you can spend more time in the sun. I want you to shop at your local Kroger. You can have Kroger delivery, Kroger pickup. Get your groceries delivered the 5-star way from Kroger. I'm going to tell you, if you're anything like me and my family, we're going to try and get in and out and dip out of that grocery store, dip out of our local Kroger so we can have more Fourth. We can have more fun this week. And it's great to be able to do that at your local Kroger store. What's the verb we talk about sometimes? Going Krogering. That's something that my family and I have been following for years and years and years and years. Guys, you've seen 4. What's left with number 5? How about a 5-star quarterback? Jared Curits out of Nashville Christian, committed to Georgia back in March, late March. Whoops, all of a sudden he got a USC offer last week, a couple weeks ago, I think. What does that mean? Is Lincoln Riley still wanting to get in another sparring match with Kirby Smart? What does Curtis have to say about all that? And what about that hand injury that reminded us of Jake Fromm? This is a good watch right now on Before the Hedges.
I don't know about what. How did it happen? Were you like four-wheeling? Were you boating? What was going on?
I was kayaking with my girlfriend at the river, and we was on top of a rock, and there was a rope swing, so we wanted to go off of it. We usually use a stick. Stick broke. Her dad couldn't reach it. I tried to jump up there, use my momentum. As soon as I jumped out and grabbed onto it, it snapped. Got back to the rock, like I never went in the water, and got back to the rock and looked down at it. It's all messed up. So I kind of like popped it back in place, and we had a kayak, and then we went to the hospital. So a little adventurous day.
Everybody saw the USC offer. Do the Dawgs have anything to worry about there? What's going on with that?
No, sir, definitely 100% locked in with the Dawgs. I liked USC a lot. Of course, they develop quarterbacks as well, but still 100% committed to Georgia for sure.
Why did you stay committed to Georgia? Why do you like that connection right there?
The connection I have with Coach Bobo and Coach Gummy is like no other school that I've been to, and just the stability of the coaching staff. Like I know Coach Smart and Coach Bobo aren't going anywhere, so I'll always know like where like the coaches that are going to be there and coaches that aren't. So,
have you started talking to the quarterbacks on the team yet? Or
yes, sir. I've talked to a little bit to Carson and Ryan. So they're really cool guys. Can't wait to get up there with them.
Tell me about your recent visit. You came in like 2 weeks ago, right?
Yes, sir. I came in there. I think it was last weekend actually, and I went up there, hung out with Ryan, went over some film and board work with Ryan. Then we went and hung out with Carson a little bit and all their roommates. So it was a good time. We went out to eat. I really liked it.
Did you get to talk to Bobo and Smart again? What did they tell you?
Yes, sir. They was messing with me a little bit about USC, but I'll probably get that. It is when there's no hard feelings, but definitely 100% still committed to Georgia. So they just like come back up for the barbecue, so I'll be up there 27.
You're going up there too?
Yes,
I know your mother. I think USC is too far away anyway, right? That's way too far away from where you guys live. When can you return? When's the status on that?
3.5, 4 more weeks. So then I'll be back because right now it's getting stronger, but I can start to bend it now and like ice it. So shouldn't be too much longer.
What did Ryan tell you about Georgia? Puglisi. What did they?
Just a great place to be at. He said it's always fun. They're the same people every single day, and you get what you see out of there. So definitely the best place to play in the country, he said.
I think you were there when a lot of other guys were on their official visit, and they were taking the photos, and you couldn't do that because you weren't there. What was it like seeing a sneak preview of the official visit there?
Definitely awesome. Definitely awesome. Can't wait to get up there and do my official visit there next year. So I saw a little bit what I had to look forward to, but definitely had a good time up there either way.
You thought about games you're going to come down and see this fall yet?
I'm definitely going to come up to a couple. I don't know which games yet, but most of the home games I'll probably be there.
You just went out to USC and worked out, and then he offered you and everything else like that?
Yes, sir. I didn't throw it all. He came to school, and Coach Hugher came to school and saw me throw, but I didn't throw because of my finger. So they offered me and talked to me a little bit, want me to come back out there, but as of right now, still a dog.
As of right now, you're what?
Still a dog. For sure.
Yeah. Did you? What they tell you they liked in your game?
Definitely my arm strength and just the size. So he came to school and really liked what he saw. So I guess they just wanted me to come on campus for what they offered me.
So we saw you throw before somebody at USC saw you throw before the injury.
Yes, sir. Coach Hubert came down sometime during school year, after school. So
Sweet. Hey, Jared, man, always appreciate your time, man.
Yes,
Thanks.
sir. Thank you.
All right, good stuff there. Jared Curits, 5-star quarterback. 2026, that was down at the Under Armour Future 50 there at Bradenton, Florida. I got to hang out with Jared a little bit, his family a little bit. Let me tell you what. First of all, number 1 quarterback in the country, I believe number 7 overall prospect. But the Curtis family has essentially a farm. They have horses. He grew up kind of fixing 4-wheelers, riding 4-wheelers. Very adventurous kid. Like sometimes you see youth of this generation, you wonder like how much are they on their phones? How much are they on video games? How much were they outside? How much are they outside? Like maybe when I was growing up, when some of you guys were growing up, Jared Curits is a guy that is outside, whether it's you name it. He's got an adventurous life. One of the things I learned is that the Curtis family has 3 horses. Jared has a horse that he has had for a long time. This is a long-time horse. I think the horse is maybe 18, 19, 20 years old. Get this, guys. The horse's name is Bomb. Is there a better name ever? If I'm telling you a story about a 5-star quarterback commit that has a horse, then his name, the name of that horse being Bomb, isn't that perfect for a quarterback? Story gets better because they named him Bomb before Jared was really even playing quarterback. Remember, Jared used to be coming up, he was a running back. That's where he gets his dual threat ability from. But Jared Curits, horse owner, has a horse. The name of his horse is Bomb. Folks, where else can you get stuff like that besides on Before the Hedges, brought to you by Kroger? And that, my friends, as we finish out our Big Five. We finish out our Big Five, and what does that mean now? That means question of the week time. We got a good one for you this week. That really gets everybody thinking, especially with that what's going on graphic we showed early in the show. Our question is, how many commitments do you think the Bulldogs will get in June? They're not going to get 8, I can tell you that. I think the class is already at 17. I think the class will probably grow upwards to maybe, depending on portal attrition and NFL ascendancy to the NFL and that Sunday league, I think that the number I would settle on right now is I'd probably say 5. 5, that would be the over-under for me for how busy July is going to be on the commitment front. That's my take. That's my best guess. The question of the week is all about you guys weighing in, filling up that comment section. Give me your take. Put it on record. Leave some receipts about how many commitments you guys think the Dawgs will get in the month of July. Good stuff there. That is your question of the week. Moving on, we call this kind of our chips and salsa. We call it our Travis and Taylor of our show each and every week. The food groups, the weekly staples, the fundamentals of our show. Let's start out right now with kind of our, we give you a barrage. We give you top targets. We give you the commitment breakdown, and we give you the snapshot of UGA recruiting. Let's start now with what the commitment breakdown looks like. Look at this. All of a sudden, the wide receiver group got quite busy. Georgia, since our last show, well, right before our last show, because Tyler J. Williams actually committed before last week's show. Georgia now has 4 commitments at receiver. That's what makes it so interesting there with what potentially could happen with C.J. Wiley. Is a flip coming there? What about Travis Smith? The thing about Travis Smith, though, to pay close attention to, Georgia has 5 receivers committed already. 4 receivers committed already. We can follow the graphic right there. Alabama, one of his other major contenders, only has 1. Tennessee has 3. So numbers are working against the Dogs there with Travis Smith Jr. If you'd told me 2 months ago where I thought, if you'd asked me 2 months ago where I thought Travis Smith Jr. would have wound up, I would have said Georgia. And now it's not so cut and dry there. Elias Williams, Ethan Barbour, Mason Short, Dontrell Glover. Looking at that list right there, you see 4 four commitments on the offensive side of the ball in the month of June alone. What does the defensive look like? What does the defensive side of the ball look like? Let's break that down right now on Before the Hedges, brought to you by Kroger. Look at that secondary. Still just Todd Robinson there. No corners, no pure safeties. Todd can play in a bunch of spots right there. It was really important for Georgia to lock him down as a priority so early in this class. Isaiah Gibson's there as well. He committed in June. Christian Garrett committed in June. Zayden Walker committed in June. So the breakdown on defense certainly filled up with the month of June. Let's take a look now at the snapshot of the class. It now stands 17 commitments strong. Nation's number 3 class. 10 are on offense, 7 are on the defensive side. Georgia has 12 commitments from the state of Georgia, 5 outside the state of Georgia. 14 of those are in the SEC footprint. We call that SEC country around these parts. 3 commitments are beyond the SEC footprint. I get questions about that each and every week. Somebody each and every week will reach out and say, hey, which 3 commitments are outside the SEC footprint? I try to share those maybe every couple of weeks or so, but that's Talon Taylor out of Illinois. You've also got Ryan Montgomery out of Ohio, and then Darren Akinabon, the talented edge out of New Jersey. Those are the 3 right now outside the SEC footprint. There are 2 offensive players among the 5 highest-rated commitments, and there are 5 among the 10 highest-rated commitments of those 17 in the class. There's 2 5-stars. There's 3 top 50. You've got 5 top 100, 8 top 150, and 10 top 100 commitments right there. Let's take a look now at our top targets list. That's one of those things that, what was it Miss Mansell said last week about this? It's on the 75 hard or hard 75. Getting slimmer, definitely getting slimmer. You see Travis Smith Jr., just discussed him. Christian Gass out of Covington, Georgia. Eastside High School, Jaylan Morgan, number 9 on the top targets list. Demola Ajunahan out of Duluth, 6'6" plus, another 7 foot plus on the wingspan. Shamari Earls, Chester, Virginia, Thomas Dale High School, currently committed to South Carolina, but the tea leaves indicate that he will not be a Gamecock in the short term or the long term. Moving to the top group, Bryce Davis, July 20th decision out of Grimsley High School. Cortez Smith, July 20th decision out of Parkview High School. Davis is going to choose from Duke, South Carolina, Georgia, or Clemson. Always kind of felt like a Clemson-Georgia battle there. Juan Gaston Jr. Out of Westlake High School. Some news breaking today. It was first reported by On3.com. Juan Gaston has now set his commitment date for August the 2nd. Not going to go deep into the senior year like he thought he might. Juan Gaston is going to make his decision on August the 2nd. David Sanders Jr., Ohio State, Tennessee, Georgia, Clemson. Those look like the teams to watch there. Sanders will probably, if I had to guess, will make his commitment sometime around the end of July, 1st of August. Justice Terry, it was interesting to get comments from Isaiah Gibson about the potential of teaming up in Athens with Justice Terry and Elijah Griffin out of Savannah, Georgia. Elijah is a guy that has always contended he's going to take his decision to December. With Justice Terry, it feels like to me that I don't know anymore if I can steadfastly say that Justice Terry will be taking his decision, that marathon decision as he described it, all the way to December. Might come a little bit earlier than that now for Justice Terry out of Manchester High School. Guys, look at that 1 and 2 right now. Griffin is the number 1 defensive tackle in the country. I believe he's the number 4 or 5 prospect overall. Terry is the number 2 defensive tackle in the country. He is number 7 overall. If Georgia could close in any shape or fashion adding those defensive linemen to the class. Wow, that would be a stellar group for Travion Scott, Trey Scott, to say the least. All right, guys, we've top targeted, we've snapshotted the class, and we've also broke down the class. We've had the question of the week. You guys have heard from Isaiah Gibson today, Jaylan Morgan, Jared Curits. We've talked about kind of setting the stage for the month of July in recruiting, and we've also tried our best to kind of tell you everything we learned by keeping our ear to the ground and our nose to the grindstone down at the Future 50 for the top 2026 prospects that was held over the weekend, brought to you by Under Armour down in Bradenton, Florida. Guys, it's been a show. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you guys have a great, safe, fun, memory-filled 4th of July with all your family. Get in that Kroger, get out, enjoy your summer, enjoy your 4th of July, get those groceries, get those snacks, get those hot dogs, get those buns, and then get on with your summer thanks to your local Kroger store. What do we say at the end of this show? First of all, we got to say some thanks. We got some very impressive gentlemen stepping in. Shout out to Donnie, shout out to Jack, shout out to Jay for helping the Before the Hedges train keep going down the track each and every week here for you from DawgNation. Guys, now that is your intel. I'm Jeff Sentell, and we'll see you guys again on the pages of DawgNation.com. Happy 4th of July, everybody. Never laid off. He put his all into his team. Case of got his body right.